Hi everybody, this is Angelo Quinones and your Shine Ministries. I Ministries is designed to give you dependable and accurate answers that come straight from God's holy and inspired word, the Bible. And so we're studying John chapter 1, verse 1 in the full Greek construction. This is the mega series, okay? There's a mini series of this. There's actually a voice text series also. That wasn't really, I think, meant to be a series, but it was sent to several people, and it just ended up to be a series. It's just like when you're making a lot of sermons and stuff like that, right? Behind a pulpit in church, and then those sermons end up being, part of a book. It's basically the same thing that's going on here. I mean, you can make this into a book. You could make this into a series. It's very, very flexible in that way. Now, so this is a full Greek construction, a mega series of John chapter 1, verse 1. So if you want to know everything about the Greek in this text, which is a lot of basic Greek here, a lot of basic Greek, 17 Greek words. There's a manuscript that I know, manuscript L, has 18 Greek words. It has an extra article in John 1:1c, and so that's just the deal. My baby's not sleeping, by the way. She's up, so I don't know if she's gonna be crying. But she's okay now. So I'm sorry for that, just in case it happens. Hi, my love. Her name is Anna Devane, by the way. So let's recite or read the text, okay, in two different ways, okay, in the biblical or standard pronunciation, okay, sort of the American style, if you will, pronunciation of the Greek, and it is based on study. Okay, there are differences between vowels and things like that. So I mean, it's a very good educated guess, but it doesn't, like somebody said, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't. It's not necessarily that that's the way that it was spoken, but the modern way is not necessarily the way it was spoken. We just don't know. So I'll give you the modern way, and then I'll give you the biblical way. The biblical way first, okay? Enarche en halagos, kai halagos en prostanteon, kai theas en halagos. Enarche en halagos, kai halagos en prostanteon, kai theas en halagos. Okay? And believe it or not, for me, if I want to read or recite it, the modern way is much more easier. Okay? It's much more easier. It goes something like this. Energi inologos, ke ologos in prostonteon, ke theos inologos. You see how easy that was? Energi inologos, ke ologos in prostonteon, ke theos inologos. Energi inologos, ke ologos in prostonteon, ke theos inologos. So it's, I don't know. I always teach not to mix the pronunciations. You don't mix modern Greek with biblical Greek. You have chaos. You're gonna have things sounding like prepositions. You're gonna have nouns sounding like verbs. Okay, hutos is an excellent example of that. Okay, instead of hutas, you have hutos, which sounds like a verb actually. And so I mean, you have tonteon sounding like tonteon, and thank God that's not even in the New Testament anyway. And of course, the preposition could save you from that way of thinking. Will save you from that way of thinking. But still, if you're listening to an audio and you're mixing the two pronunciations, that's not a good thing. So just stay with one. Either stay with the biblical pronunciation, and arche in halagos, kai halagos in prostanteon, kai theos in halagos, or stay with the more modern way of putting it. And arche in ologos, ke ologos in prostanteon, ke theos in ologos. Okay, just stay with one. Don't mix the two. Okay, because you're going to have some words being changed and meaning completely other things. Okay, they're gonna mean completely other things. These words, if you mix them, change them. Okay. The other thing that I wanna talk about, and I said this on many occasions, and I'll repeat this: there's a right way of studying John 1:1 and a wrong way of studying John 1:1. What's the right way? Well, look at the context, and okay, look at the context and look at the Greek, and you'll be okay. You can't divorce the two. You can't look at the Greek and translate it like that without the context. Okay, who's mentioned here? Okay, Logos, who became Jesus. Okay, the God-man. You understand what I'm saying? Theos, who became God the Father, but he wasn't at the time. There was no subordination, so why put it in the text? There is no inferiority between Logos and Theos, so why put it in John 1:1c as a God? Okay, there's no such thing. You can't divorce the context from the text itself. Okay, the Greek. You can't do it because then you're going to have, the devil having a father in John chapter 8, which he doesn't have a father. Okay, he is the father of sin. He is the father of lies. There's no father, okay, of the devil, who's the devil himself also. You understand what I'm saying? So and that's, you just have to read the text and accept the text the way it is. Okay, all right, and that's just it. And the other, preoccupation that I have that I want to deal with and give it to you guys is that you can't miss logos and theos because of the trees. What do you mean? Well, we're dealing with the full Greek construction. Okay, the geeks that we are, and so the thing is that we is a danger. There's a danger here that you miss the persons completely by speaking just merely about the construction and stuff like that. We're going to get into that, but we always have to tie in the construction and remind people that who are we talking about? We're talking about two persons of the Trinity. We're talking about the living God of Israel. Okay, who wasn't the God of Israel at the time, though he had them in his heart and the elect people. All around the world, we were in his heart. We were in existence at the time. We were the apple of his eye. But the thing is that we cannot miss logos and theos or logos and theos because of the Greek construction, which we are going to mention. But we can't miss them. We can't speak about the Greek construction here, the nominative case, the accusative case, and the dative case, and those three cases are here out of the 5 cases. Or out of the 8 cases, no matter how you're looking at it, and you have prepositions here. You have 2 different articles from the 24 article paradigm, and you have one kind of a verb here, ain, and then you have this, and then you have that. I mean, but we can't miss who this is talking about. This is talking about 2 persons, 2 different persons, yet one being. All right, now let's stay with the preposition. Okay, the prepositional phrase anarche. Okay, don't say anarche, don't say arche, say arche. Okay, or if you want the modern way, archi. Okay. Now I want to mention again that arche, right? No, arche is found 55 times in the Greek New Testament. Okay, 55 times in the Greek New Testament, and logos is found 330 times in the Greek New Testament. Although these words are found and recorded in the Old Testament as well. Arche, apoiesin, hate astan uranan kaitain gain. And they have logos in the Septuagint, Psalm 32. Remember, the order is different sometimes. In English and in Hebrew, I believe it's Psalm 33, verse 6, but he's in Psalm 32, verse 6 in the Greek Septuagint. And we already touched upon the Greek Septuagint a little bit in our last study. Now, so the prepositional phrase is very important in this text because it's sort of a pointer, pointing back to the same prepositional phrase that's found and recorded in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, where it says "enerche" over there. Okay, so it's looking back to the sort of horizon. Have you ever been on a boat, or maybe you heard of this, that you're so high up on the boat, it's like the watchman sort of thing on the boat, you know what I mean? And so, in certain places, in certain geographical areas, you can actually see the circle of the earth. So you can see the water, and then you see, the sky, but you see the division between the two. Okay, the division between the two. And I was going to mention this, and let me mention this before, I completely forget. Okay, all right. And I was going to mention that this horizon is, let's say, like a fence. Okay. Now we're talking about eternity and time. Okay, forget about the sky and the water for now, and then the circle of the earth. Actually, it's like a separation between the two. You see the circle of the earth, meaning the water, right? And then you see the sky, but that's the middle. This is the horizon. That's the middle. Now, in this text, okay, and in the text of Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and arche, It's like you're on a fence. It's not a fence of decision. No, it's a fence of force. Okay. This prepositional phrase, in my opinion, is forcing you, okay, to think about, all right, creation and before creation. Okay, it's making you think about the time that the things were created, but no more. It forces you to be on the fence, and every time you're trying to think to the right, okay, the force, this magnet, this is like, let's say that this is, it's like eternity is on the, is eternity. I hate to say left or right because but eternity is like on the left, and time is on the right, or time is the fence itself. Okay, and you're on the fence, so at least you're on time. You're in the beginning of time. Okay, when things were created. Pantat di auto, auto ageneta. All things were created through him. He was the intermediate agent of creation. Okay, he did create. It's not like he didn't create. Remember, you had in I will say in not in a classical sense like that, like way back, thousands of years ago. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about in a classical sense, like in the 1950s. Emmanuel Grammar, the Greek New Testament, was made by Dana and Manti, and they spoke about. Okay, they spoke about that. Okay, I think that's a Kanos, right? He spoke about that, and they gave you an indication. Now, what I want to say, and I'm being forced actually to not change too much, but I'm being forced actually by, let's say, like a giant magnet. Let's stay with the let's stay with the the what I'm trying to say. That let's say like in eternity, there's like a giant magnet. Okay, those horseshoe magnets, and it draws you by force to it. Well, you're on the fence, okay, and then you're on time, okay, not time like you're on the way to school, you're on time, but you're on time itself. And then every time you want to go to the right and jump into the pool of further time, the magnet draws you back and makes you think about the past before time came into existence. Okay, all right, into eternity itself. Okay. Now I was gonna say, and now I'm not being forced to give you that. I'm being let go from the magnet idea before I forget it, and get you back into this. That Julius Armenti actually gave you three classifications of the passive voice in his manual. Okay. And so the thing is that you have the passive with direct agent, the passive with intermediate agent, and the passive with impersonal agent. Okay, Acts chapter 22 verse 30, John chapter 1 verse 3, and Ephesians chapter 2 verse 8 and maybe 9. I have to look at it again. Okay, so all of those, okay, are very real, and they are different from each other. And so he is in the category of this manual of being in the passive voice with intermediate agency. Okay, he is the intermediate agent that was used in creation. He was not in. It was not. John chapter 1 verse 3 is not the passive voice with direct agent that the Apostle Paul was accused by the Jews and did nothing at all. That's completely passive. I'm going to put it completely passive, okay? Then you're not doing anything at all. And you're doing nothing. You're just receiving the accusation of the Jews. You understand what I'm saying? And of course, the passive voice with impersonal agent is out because Logos is personal, okay? He's a person, okay? Grace is not a person, and for our grace you're saved through, and faith is not a person. So they're impersonal, okay? Whether one is the agent and not the other, that's another argument altogether. We've got to look at the text. But in either case, okay, they're impersonal. Okay, so it's a passive voice with impersonal agent, which doesn't fit, okay, John 1:3, And what happened in Acts chapter 22, verse 30 doesn't fit John chapter 1, verse 3. So that's what I was going to say. And I was given permission by God to come back, you know. But let's go back to the magnet analogy. You cannot go so far into time. This is only, okay, design. No pun intended, because my ministry it opens up that way, to lead you to the beginning of time and back to eternity. That's the horizon point. That's the horizon line. Okay, that you're seeing. Okay, two different things. You're seeing eternity and time, and you're right in the middle of eternity and time on time itself. But you're drawn back to eternity to see and check out the eternal subsistence of Logos and Theos. And that's recorded in John 1 2. That not only Logos existed in the beginning, but also Theos existed or subsisted. He's even better for God, subsisted in the beginning. Okay, so it draws you this magnet, this magnet of Scripture, draws you back to eternity itself, and even you can even say this: you have a foot on eternity and a foot on time. Okay, and that's a better way of putting it. It's not like you're emerging from something, though. That's completely different. That's X-ray. I mean, that's why, I don't like the word "exist" for God. It's better subsist, because it is the idea of stepping into something or stepping out of some, whatever the case may be. It's like a beginning point. But I'm not talking about that when I'm talking about that your foot is on the fence and your foot is on eternity, or some sort of decision that you're in the middle. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, you're talking about both, and you're looking back at both. Okay, or you're on both. You're on the two subjects that this is covering. Energe is covering two things at the same time. En is a preposition, okay, and prepositions were probably adverbs in ancient times. It is showing you the relationship between two words, okay? It's showing you the relationship that Logos has with, or Logos has with, beginning. Now, why is Alpha and Omega called the beginning and the end? Well, because he is an eternal being, and that is what God uses to point out eternity, okay, in God, and eternity in this text. Okay? Beginning is what we as human beings could only grasp, okay, to find out, okay, about the beginning of things, which Logos had created, and Theos. He was not part of the creation, but he created. He did not create himself. Okay, it says Panta di autu egeneto, or egeneta, all things, not all other things, by the way. And in the New World Translation, it doesn't even say all other things through him were created, or emerged, or became, came into being, whatever the case may be. It doesn't even say that, though. See, when you lie so many times, okay, and they lied so many times in their translation, inserting other in the text of Colossians chapter 1 verses 16 and 17 4 times. I mean, twice in verse 16 and twice in verse 17. That you're going to get caught. You lie so many times, you're going to get caught. And you see in Vine's complete expository dictionary of Old and New Testament words on page 451, 7 Greek words: alelon, heteros, hais, loipos, and 3 other Greek words. You see them in Vine's complete expository dictionary, and you see 5 in Mounce's lexicon also. But you don't see any of those words, okay, in Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17 for the word other. You don't see that in the text, so they inserted it there. They forgot to insert it, okay, in John chapter, 1 verse 3. It doesn't say all other things were created through him. It says all things. You see, it doesn't match what they said in Colossians chapter 1 verses 16 and 17, because they lied. Now, I don't know why they didn't insert it there. Maybe it was just a different committee or whatever the case may be. Or maybe they weren't thinking as they normally, are accustomed of doing, or not doing, as the case may be. And that's just the deal. So in this text, we're going to really go through the text now. It's not like a bird's eye view. It's not like an overview. It's not like I'm giving you the three titles of this verse. I mean, subsistence, John 1:1a, intercommunion slash relationship, John 1:1b, nature slash essence, John 1:1c, which I affectionately call this a Syrian section, because if you're born again, you're going to believe in the deity of Christ. You're going to believe in his humanity also, which comes in verse 14. Okay, you understand? We can't divorce the two. Now, as I speak, okay, he was a man at the time, but he became man, so we cannot divorce the two now. We can't. We could distinguish, okay, the two natures. I call it nature A and nature B, or nature one and nature two. And there's verses to prove that. I already gave it to you in this mega series. Okay. Second Corinthians chapter 8 verse 9 talks about him being rich and then becoming poor. I mean, and then you have Philippians chapter 2 verses 6 and 7. In verse 6 it says that he's it says subsisting. Okay, it says has and marpe theu parkon. Okay, who being in the form of God. That's the nature of God. That's nature 1. And nature 2 is in the next verse 7. It says, taking the form of a slave. Okay? Taking the form of a slave. Okay? Labon, and that's the participle taking. It's a different participle from the participle found and recorded in verse 6, huparkon. The form, marfane, I think that's in the accusative case construction, has a nu over there. And then of a slave is dulu. Okay, so that's in the genitive case construction. It's describing you, the two genitives there, okay, in the text of Philippians chapter 2, in verses 6 and 7, are telling you what kind of nature, okay, we're talking about. When we're talking about nature B, we're talking about the nature, okay, of Dulu, of man. And then when you're talking about nature A, you're talking about the nature of God, and he subsisted in that nature. The nature wasn't given to him. The nature wasn't taken, and that's just it. He just subsisted or existed in that nature A or nature 1. He took nature B or nature 2. Okay, I say the or like the Greek ro, it sticks on you. You know what I'm saying? The Greeks like, and I'll placate the Greeks when it comes to this, the rough, ro, the rough r, they like it in a rough way. Okay, like that, and you used to do it. I mean. Some people say it's hard to do. It's not hard to do. If you just think about what you used to do as children playing with a machine gun, you used to go, or when I play with my daughter, and I go to Anna Devane, making a motorcycle sound, what do I go? What do I do? Okay. Like that, right, Vala? So that's just the deal. Excuse me, guys. I have a very bad cold. Sorry about my nose and my throat. I remember going to ear, eye, nose, and throat when I was a boy, and we used to wait excruciating hours. It was brutal. It really was, though. I mean, it was just, and you have to be patient with this text. You have to go through it, and look at the full Greek construction, and we're doing that. Let's go back to it. N is a preposition, like I said before, and it's a capital E there. Now, in some manuscripts, you have a capital E that's rounded off. So don't let this fool you. This is very nicely typed, and it looks like RE and stuff like that, or maybe to help us out, who knows. But the epsilon, okay, was rounded off in the old days. I'm talking about when you're looking at Sinaiticus and things like that. I mean, you're looking at a rounded off epsilon. It's not square like this, okay? Like, it's not perfect, okay? It's not. And then the V-looking letter is not a V. It's an N, like in Nancy. The Hebrew N is called noon, like good afternoon, Noon. Okay, this is nu, actually. So in biblical Greek or in biblical Hebrew, the N, the name of the letter of the N is called nu and noon, so it's close to each other. I'm trying to say, now in modern Greek, this V-looking letter is still not a V. It's still an N like a Nancy, but it's just called differently. It's called knee, like your knee. I hurt my knee, man. My knee hurts. Okay, it hurts. I remember the Abbott and Costello. Remember the Abbott and Costello duo, comedy combination. I think the funniest combination. Uh, and also, I think Ralph and Norton were very funny. Jackie Gleason and Art Carney from The Honeymooners, that are hilarious. But it all started basically not with Abbott and Costello, but really in well, Lauren Hardy really started it off. But I mean, Abbott and Costello really brought it to another level of making movies and making radio programs and making commercials and visiting the troops. And I mean, they did so much, especially, the movies, The Invisible Man and stuff like that. I mean, this is hilarious stuff. Break the ice, all that stuff. And The Invisible Man is something to behold. That movie is incredible. But what do I say that? Well, Abbott and Costello is to say, well, if it hurts, you drive. And then Costello saying, well, I don't want it to hurt, brother. And then, the Hertz company, right, is a you drive company, right? Or is a you drive. Where if it hurts, you drive. Oh my God, it's so funny. Very funny stuff. Now, I'm getting back to this. So it's not Ev. It looks like F, doesn't it, though? It looks like EV, but it's actually EN. There is a V in biblical Greek, okay, and that's the Vita. It's not here in this text, the B, like in Biblios, Bible. That could be a B or a V in, I hope I said modern Greek. If I said biblical Greek, sorry about that. In modern Greek, you do have a V, okay, in the letter Vita, okay. That B, or the beta, we call it beta, But in biblical Greek, there is no V sound. There's no W sound, okay? So those are out. I mean, but there is in modern Greek a V letter and a B letter, and a B letter could act like a V and vice versa, But in biblical Greek, the beta is strictly a B sound, okay? It's not a V sound, like in victory, okay? So, if you're looking at something that looks like a V, okay, well, in both pronunciations, is not a V. There's no V that looks like a V in Greek. So I think that's what I'm trying to say. There's no V that looks like a V in Greek, okay? There's no V sounding letter that looks like a V in Greek. So if you're looking at something that looks like Ev, do not pronounce it Ev, pronounce it N. Okay, and that's the proposition here, showing you the relationship that Logos have with Arche, that he was not under the beginning, right, Hupa. He was not, alongside the beginning, Para. He was not over the beginning, Ana or something like that, right? And then it's none of that. It's that he was in the beginning, okay? He was in, okay, creating, and he was before creating, okay, before the horizon line, he was subsisting. Okay, that's what this text says in the Greek word "ein," as only God, not the God man yet. That came later. That came in Bethlehem, the house of bread. You understand what I'm saying? But he was only Logos. Okay, I hate to say it at the time, so I'm not going to even say it. At that juncture. I don't know if juncture is time also. So Logos was in the beginning. In the beginning, when it has to do with creation, and Arche, Epoyas and Hate Astan Uranan Kaitain gain. I don't know why it says tan uranan, because in Hebrew you have the plural there. Okay, you have the plural there. So I understand why they didn't translate the plurality, okay, of the word Elohim. That's a plural word. They didn't say, hoi theoi, and arche epoiasin hoi theoi tan uranan kaitain gain. They didn't say that, because then you're going to think that there's a whole bunch of gods, and that's what the Bible doesn't try to portray. It tries to, it does give you indications here and there, and then it smacks you in the face, okay, with the Trinity. But in the Old Testament, it's giving you indications, gentle nudges and nuggets of the Trinitarian truth in these verses, like Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, verse 23 in the Greek Septuagint, Genesis chapter 11, verse 7, and Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. Na'aseh is in the Greek, okay, or actually in the Hebrew. Na'aseh is Hebrew. It means let us, okay, let us. I think in the Greek, because of the omega there, it's telling me that that's a subjunctive there. That's a subjunctive in the text there. Let us make. That's a subjunctive verb there. Okay, the omega to me is pointing that out, that subjunctive construction. Now, and so that's not aseh in the Hebrew though. Not aseh, it means let us make. From asad, that means to make. Okay, and then when you go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, in Hebrew, it says mim. Actually, it's a double M there. It's the reduplicating. It's a doubling dagesh, actually, you call it. I was thinking about the reduplicating consonant, like in Telestai, the T the tau reduplicating into another tau, and a connecting vowel in the middle of the two. Or like the theta and the tau in the word behold in verse 12 of chapter 4 of 1 John, which is very powerful. It's very powerful. Behold, okay? Which I think the NASB has. Behold. It's a very powerful thing. It's not just a regular glance at God, okay? It's just a deal. Now, horao actually means much more than just eyesight. So it's like I think Blepo is doing in sometimes in verse in chapter 9 of John. It's a perception, because you're gonna have an issue with Exodus chapter 24 verses 9 and 10, where 74 people saw God at the same time. What are you going to do about that? Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70, elders of Israel, they saw the God of Israel. Actually, the Hebrew word Ra'ah, not to be, confused with Ara. I went into that the other day. Ara means to pour out, and it's found and recorded in several places in the Old Testament, according to Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And you see in that Jesus poured out his soul unto death, but it doesn't mean his soul was destroyed. Okay, that's ara. That's the empty, to pour out, to make bare, naked, according to Brown, Driver, and Briggs. And you see that in verse 12, chapter 53 of Isaiah. But you're going to have an issue if you think that his soul was destroyed, because then you're saying that the water that was poured out from Rebecca's pitcher also was destroyed, and it wasn't, of course. It gave drink to the camels, and that's the same word, Hebrew word ara, found and recorded in verse 20, chapter 24 of Genesis. So just link the two and give that to the witnesses. All right. I don't know if I'm still recording though. Okay, so I don't know if I was still recording. Let me see if I still was recording. Where's my magnifying glass, huh? Let me see if I'm still recording. I hope I am. Let's see here. I guess I'm still recording. I just got blank there. I wasn't paying attention to the phone. And so I hope that you heard what I just said, guys. I don't know how long, because I don't think it records when it's off though. So I think this right there, that's the thing right there. So I'm still recording, but let me just say that I mentioned, okay, I actually had my eyes closed when I was thinking of saying what I was saying, and so the phone went, dim on me. It goes dim after a half an hour, and so let me just repeat the last few things that I said. Um, I was talking about the Trinitarian verses of Scripture. And, I meant to say that because, two members of the Trinity are here in this text. One is not because, that's the job of the Holy Spirit to keep himself in the background. He shall not glorify himself. He shall glorify me, said the Lord Jesus. So that's why he's in the background of this text. Okay. The main relationship that is focused upon in the Gospels, okay, the Gospel, kata Mattheon, kata Markan, kata Lucan, and kata Ioannin. Okay, the main relationship is between the Father, okay, and the Son. Now, they weren't at the time. Hebrews chapter 1, verses 5 and 6, chapter 5, verse 5, and chapter 7, verse 3. Apater is there in the text, no father. Incidentally, no mother also. Ameter. And so the thing is that we have to understand that. But they became, okay, something else. In other words, the Father became, Theos became the Father, and Logos became, okay, of flesh, God's Son, right? And so it's very important to see that the relationship between Theos and Logos was quite different before all that took place, meaning Father and Son. Incidentally, there's no genitive of relationship here. Logos, the son of Logos, the son of Theos. It doesn't say that here. It doesn't say Halagos, Ain, Ha, Theos, and or Theu. But that article won't have to do with Theu in that construction, the genitive of relationship. But will have to you have to put that in your translation. You'll have to put in your translation son. Okay, huios there. Or not, you have to put son, and it would be huios there if it was in the text in Greek. Yeah, my love. Oh, my lovey, my love. My love. It's my lovey, dear, my love, my love. So I just trying to placate my daughter, Anna Devane. So she's a year and 10 months old, She's still a baby. A big baby, by the way. It's a big baby, really nice and fat. Not overly so, just a little pudgy. She drinks a lot of milk. So anyway, I was trying to give you those texts. I'll give you that again. And I'll just touch the phone periodically so it could, boost up again to 0 minutes, like that. Keep my eyes open sometimes, like that. It is the morning time, by the way. It's about like 7 o'clock, so that's why I have my eyes closed, just saying these things, and I'll open them up when I'm looking at the text and stuff like that, and then drawing from the Greek, looking at the construction, and then closing my eyes again. Okay. So just in case you didn't hear what I was saying, because it just didn't record, it just paused there or something like that. I mean, I don't know. What I was trying to say is that the Trinitarian verses, that you're nudged, because you're nudged, and these well, actually, I actually said this, so I don't know if you got this part, that The Hebrew translators of the Jewish scriptures into the Greek Septuagint didn't say, okay, enarche epoiesen hoi theoi tanuranan kaite gain. They didn't say, in the beginning, the gods created the heaven and the earth. Okay, they didn't translate, Elohim, to be like that. Okay, even though it's plural, it's a plural ending. Im. Okay, like Susim, horses, Cherubim, those angels, in the plural. Seraphim, angels of fire, also in the plural. Panim, face or faces, person or persons, like that, and so that's plural. Okay, Echadim, few, right? Stay in your uncle's house, Laban's house, until a few days, until your brother's fury subsides. And by the way, that's echad there, okay? Echad. That's echad. That's echadim. That's echad. Understand what I'm saying? Doesn't only mean one. This is a semantic pool range as big as big as the biggest swimming pool when it comes to echad. Altogether, 1, 11, other, or whatever the case may be. Altogether, so it has a big semantic range. Other, it just doesn't mean one, like the Swami from Brooklyn, Alexander Cruz, in the Trinitarian debate against me said. Echad is much more wide than just one. Okay, so I'm not saying there's a few lords hanging around like a few beings. I'm not talking about that, but there is plurality in Elohim, but the translation was not like that because they don't want you to think that the Bible's talking about different beings called God creating the heavens and the earth. You understand what I'm saying? Hey, my love. My love. So, and also I was bringing forth, no pun intended, because we're talking about creation. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, verse 23 in the Greek Septuagint, at least the one that I had. And I said had because I don't have it with me in here in the Philippines. I was born in the United States, by the way. I'm Spanish. And Spanish Native American, and see Genesis chapter 11 verse 7 and and actually Isaiah, I should say rather, chapter 6 verse 8, where it says Lanu, who will go for us? Lanu, for us, is Lanu in Isaiah. And getting back to Genesis, you have Na'aseh, okay, let us make. And I was talking about that, and let me just touch the screen. And I was talking about that, to me, there's a construction that matches subjunctive construction. In verse 26 of chapter 1 in the Greek Septuagint, you have an omega over there. So to me, it's telling me that it's a subjunctive. Let us make. It's a subjunctive in Greek there. And but getting back to the Hebrew, that's not aseh. Let us make. From asa, which means to make. Na'aseh, okay, means let us make in Hebrew. Now, what's the one in verse 22 of chapter 3 of Genesis, the same book? Well, that's mim menun. And it's actually the double N there also, but it's hard to say. But mim me, that's very easy to say. You have a doubly doggish, a dot in the middle of the mem there, of the M. When you see that in the middle of the M, well, that's not a hardening doggish, right? That's not like in bet. That's not gonna be like that. But that's a doubling doggish. When you see a dot in the middle of a letter like that, well, then you are taught to pronounce it with a double consonant sound. Okay, so instead of saying meme menu, you say meme. Actually, is doubling. Letters, consonants can double in Hebrew, just like they can double in Greek. Okay, like in the word tetelestai, the debt has been paid in full. Jesus said that on the cross. And so the tau is doubled. Okay, it's called a reduplicating consonant. And you see tetelestai, and then you see the tau, and then the epsilon connecting vowel, and then the tau. And that's just the deal. Tetelestai, that has been paid in full. Something that was said, uh, um, actually, in the end of Psalm 22, that he has done this. It's the same. It's the same sort of thing. Said James Voice. I agree with that. Okay, tetelestai. It's the same. It's the same sort of deal. I'm not saying it's the same Greek word, but I'm just saying it's the same deal going on of something being completed, something being paid, something being done. That's what I'm trying to say. And then you have, of course, tethe, like that in verse 12, chapter 4 of First John, that no one has, it says beheld God. It's not just a glance of God. It's deeper than that. And then you see the reduplicating constant theta there, but it turned into a tau, because the Greeks don't like the th sound, like the Hebrews do. The Hebrews can like uh, maybe a bb sound or a vv sound like that, because sometimes it's bevakasha. But anyway, all right, my love. So anyway, and you're gonna have problems when you're saying that no one has saw God in any way at all, completely, absolutely. Because how about the Son of God? He saw God. He was face to face with God. That's number one. Number two, how about the angels? They saw God. Matthew chapter 18, around verse 15. I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe 15 or 16. How about that? And then how about Adam? Did he see God? Something of the glory stuck on Moses' face. Okay, saw that glory. You know what I'm saying? He had to cover himself. And then you're gonna have trouble. If you come to that way of thinking, that horao in John chapter 1 verse 18 means only to see. You're gonna have a problem because of Exodus chapter 24 verses 9 and 10, where 74 people saw God at the same time. Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, they saw the God of Israel. Saw the God of Israel, Ra'ah. And this, it leads me to this, and I think I'm going to finish with this, and then we'll go back to John chapter 1 verse 1, erarche, or erarche, prepositional phrase there. And incidentally, arche, right? No, arche is the object of the preposition, and N is the preposition. Okay. Incidentally, it doesn't need an article for it to be definite, and it would be te. That matches the dative noun, arche, which is a dative, singular, and feminine. Okay, it would be te. There's the only one in the pool of the paradigm. You have to te to there in that side of the paradigm of the 24 article paradigm. You have the singular datives are only to, te, and to. Okay, to for the masculine, te for the feminine, and to, same construction as the masculine for the neuter. Okay, so you can only pick to or te, and it has to be te because this is feminine. You don't need that for it to be definite. Just ask the witnesses. They say in the beginning. There's no the here. Okay, so why don't they say in a beginning? To keep with their thinking of that a noun needs an article for it to be definite. But we're gonna get into that. When we're talking about John 1:1c. Okay, about theos being in the predicate position. Okay, the predicate is was or ain there in the text. We'll check that out. Okay, we'll see the reverse volume control effect. That the more to the left you get of a text of a clause, the more stronger the force is laid upon something being definite. It's just like a reverse volume control. In a volume control, usually when you go to the right, things get higher, doesn't it? But when you go to the left in Greek, to the beginning, okay, of a clause, well, in that situation, theos is indicating to you that logos is full deity, okay, and we'll see the force, the stress that's laid upon logos being fully God, because of the predicate position of theos there in the text. Incidentally, it doesn't say enerche epoiasen hatheas tan lagan. It doesn't say in the beginning God created the logos anywhere in this text, either A, B, or C. It doesn't say enerche egeneta or egeneto halagos. In the beginning, the word came into being or emerged. Okay, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say in the beginning was the Son. In the in arche in hahuyas. In the beginning was the angel. In arche in haangelos. In the beginning was Michael. That would be one of the worst of all. In arche in ha Michael. And even in just to throw the Hebrew for free, Bereshit bara Elohim hadabar. Doesn't even say that in the text, and that matches the first scenario. In the beginning, God created the logos, but in Hebrew. So I got 6 scenarios, 5 are different. In the scenario list that I gave you, that would be good for the witnesses if they were here, okay, or one of them were here, but none are here in this text. Yet they force it upon you in your way of thinking. Well, meme menu. So man has become like one of us. Genesis chapter 3 verse 22 in Hebrew. Meme menu, something like that. I gotta check that out. And then you have nerda, right? In I believe that's in Genesis chapter 11 verse 7. Let us go down. Let us go down. So I mean, that's there. And then I mentioned already Lanu in the text. My love. Oh, my love, my love. My love. Oh, my love, my love. Let me get a kiss to my daughter. Oh, my love, my love. What happened to you, my love? Oh, my love, my love. Oh, my love. Hi, my love. It's me, my daddy. My love, my baby. Hi, my love. It's me. Daddy. Ooh, my love. Too much love. Aye. Oh, my nose, guys, is killing me. I have a bad toe, a cold, and I got the vaccine the other day, which I'm not feeling the ill effects or anything like that, thank God. And my wife is, I don't think, either feeling too much of it. And but I'm waiting for it though. I got the Pfizer vaccine here in the Philippines, and I wasn't gonna get the one from China. I don't like to say Chinese vaccine. I don't like that. That's demeaning. I don't like that. And I wasn't gonna get that one because I was causing blood clots and stuff like that. And let's use that though. Why would you be in a tower that's caused you blood clots? Literally and physically. I mean, that doesn't allow you to get a transfusion if you need it. Apart from that, why would you be in the tower, in the Watchtower Society that's lied to you so many times? That lied to you about Ezekiel chapter, 18 verse 4, not even telling you why it was written. If you ask the witnesses why was Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 4 written, they wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know at all. That was written to stop the rumor going around that the fathers could sin all they want, and the children are going to reap the consequences. The fathers can eat the sour grapes. but the children's teeth are set at edge. And God says, no. The man who sins, or the person who sins, he will die, not somebody else. You understand what I'm saying? That's the thing. They just look at one verse, or sometimes one part of a verse. You know, they're forgetting what is said. This is a progression of thought. This is, like I said before, they're forgetting that over here. Okay, as I move this again before dims. You're talking about the eternal subsistence of Logos. Okay? And there's no Tina here. There's no subordination of Logos to Theos here. There's no Tina like Tina Turner, the one that looks like her hair was electrocuted or something like that. You understand what I'm saying? It was plugged in like her guitar. No. Tina. It's very easy to remember Tina. There's no Tina here. Murray J. Harris, I brought that out in his book, Jesus as God. Now, I don't agree with Murray J. Harris and everything. I don't agree with this spiritual resurrection of Jesus at all. I mean, this was a literal, tangible, fleshly resurrection. There is no resurrection if the flesh wasn't resurrected. There's no resurrection. That's not called resurrection, to stand again. There's no resurrection. If there's another body, there's no resurrection. There's no R-E. There's none. Okay? This doesn't make any sense. Shachat is the Hebrew word there found and recorded, corruption. He saw lo, Hebrew word for no. It's a Hebrew negative. Just like the u or me in Greek. No corruption. Lo shachat. You will not allow your Holy One to see corruption. Shachat. He saw no corruption. So if his body was destroyed in any way, held in a memorial or service someplace, or it was destroyed, we saw corruption. And I already told you about Ara, and I'll pour out so that you can use that for the witnesses, that, the soul of Jesus wasn't destroyed like that water wasn't destroyed. Hebrew word Ara, for empty, in Genesis chapter 24, verse 20, for Rebecca emptying her jar of water for the camels to drink. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Proving her worthiness to marry Ishach. I think in Greek it'll be Isaac. Okay. I gotta check that out again. Incidentally, I don't see any inflections. I mean, one begetting another one doing the begetting and was begotten, and then the same one goes out and begets. I mean, I don't see it inflecting at all. You know what I'm saying? All those names there. David's name, and I don't see him, in a different construction when he was begotten or begetting. So it's just kind of interesting. I guess the articles will help you out there, and that's the whole point of an article in that situation, and the article is very flexible. I mean, it could be used as a pronoun, that one. Incidentally, I wanted to say this. John McCain, poor John McCain, I mean, he passed away of a brain tumor. But when he was debating Obama, actually, what he used was good English. Now, I don't want this to be a race issue or nothing like that. I have a black woman in my family. I have several black members in my family. Yo-Yo is my sister-in-law, one of my sister-in-laws. She's black. Terrell, her son, is black. He's tall as a tree. Goodness gracious. This is wonderful. Boy, I used to play baseball with. And then Gwendolyn the Bra, I mean, she's black and she's married to my brother. So, I mean, I'm Spanish. So I'm not trying to, do this at all, because you may disagree with this. But this is the thing. I wanted to point this out, though. I wanted to point out a lot of different things that I didn't point out before. That he was actually, now why, if he was doing it, only God knew his heart at the time when he was doing that, and he knew why he was doing it. But I'm just saying, grammatically, that's perfect English. You can say that one for anyone. That's what the Greek does here in the New Testament sometimes. That one. Okay? That one, I mean, ekenos. It could be translated as that one. An article can be translated as that one. Okay? Ha. That one. You see? And one will be in brackets, like that in your interlinear. But I'm just saying. I mean, to say that when somebody says, to someone of any race, that one, that's demeaning, or actually, English wise and Greek wise, that's not the meaning. That one is perfectly. Now, whether they're doing it, I don't know. That's the heart of man. It's like that sometimes. So you can't, in all situations say that they're not trying to demean the person. But I'm just saying that in and of itself, that one wasn't a demeaning statement. And it's not to be, thought as that every single time. That one is perfect English, for anyone actually, and that's what the Bible does too, though. That one. So the article is very flexible. It can actually point out, several things and be uh, uh, several things used for special definiteness. Oh God, right? It can be used as a pronoun, like I said before. That one. So it could do a lot of neat things. So this idea that theos has to have an article, and it's an L manuscript that has an article anyway. I could pop out the L manuscript in the New Testament Greek manuscript. It's called New Testament Greek Manuscripts on page 1. And that volume was arranged and edited by Reuben Swanson and forwarded by the great Greek scholar Bruce Meska. And you can see it there on the page, the L manuscript that has Energean Halagos, Kai Halagos in Prostantheon, Kai Hatheos in Halagos. See, has the article in front of Theos. So I could pop out that to the witnesses, very easily, but we don't need it. Because Dan Wallace says, and he's one of the greatest Greek scholars that we have, okay, in the world, he says that a Greek noun can be definite in 10 different ways. 10 different ways a Greek noun can be a definite without an article. And 2 examples are here in this text over here, energe and theos. Well, I mean, man, this was a long study. So what did we learn? Well, we learned about the prepositional phrase. That's what we were actually. Now we're going through the text, and we learned that the preposition en here, okay, and in Hebrew it's actually be. I didn't give you the Hebrew, so let me just give you the Hebrew of this text before I get into our conclusion. Be, it says over here, I'm reciting it. Bereshit haya hadabar. Bahadabar haya im ha Elohim wa Elohim, or va Elohim really doesn't make a difference to me. Haya hadabar, and I'm talking about the va or wa, and that's va or wa, or actually ve is actually and in Hebrew. It can be and, and A and D. So that comes from the 1817 Hebrew New Testament. Translated from the Textus Receptus by G.G. Collier, Collyer, and T. Frey, Frey, back in 1817. That and the 1880 Hebrew New Testament both have Jesus saying Ehyeh of himself. No one can use that for himself except Yahweh. He does it in Exodus chapter 3, around verse 14, and Jesus does it in those 2 Hebrew New Testaments in the 1817 and 1880 edition, and he does that in John chapter 8, verse 58. It says Ani Ehyeh in the 1817 edition, and in the 1880 edition, it says Ani Ehyeh. Actually, is in the emphatic. Ani Ehyeh. Ani means I, so it's actually literally saying I am in that 1880 Hebrew New Testament, which Ted Dencher actually speaks about on page 153 of a volume that he, of a book that he wrote entitled Why Okay, I love Jehovah's Witnesses. Why I love Jehovah's Witnesses. And he says that on page 153, that, Jehovah's Witnesses shot themselves on the foot like they do all the time, saying that Jesus spoke only in the Hebrew in the day of his day, not in Greek. Okay, so we take that. We don't agree with it. I'm speaking now. We don't agree with that. We don't agree that Jesus only spoke in the Hebrew in this day and not in Greek. But we take that. So we use that as legwork for us. We don't have to prove to witnesses that he spoke in Hebrew because they say it themselves. In 1961 or 62 pamphlet entitled The Word, Who Is He? The Word, W-O-R-D, The Word, Who Is He? On page 36. So we take that. We don't agree with it, but we take it. And then we just say, well, Ted Dencher wrote in his book that they pop out on that page, page 36 of that pamphlet, to a Hebrew New Testament that Jesus didn't say Echiek of himself. Maybe just saying Ani, and that's about it. I don't have the pamphlet right in front of me. And but that's it. He just said, regular Ani. I could say it myself, meaning Angelo. I could say Ani, Ani Angelo. I am Angelo. That's how you're taught to introduce yourself. Ani Angelo. Yeshli ach ve'achot. I have a brother and a sister, stuff like that. Or what I mean, whatever the case may be. And so you're taught to say Ani. We could say Ani. The blind man saw Ani who? In chapter 9 of John. I mentioned him, as a matter of fact. I read the whole chapter, all 41 verses the other day. Praise God, he gets glory, not me. Looking at blepo. And looking that, to see doesn't mean sight, physical sight with the eyeballs all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so, so they pop out two Hebrew New Testaments that Jesus didn't say Echiek. But just as easily, says Ted Dencher, as they popped out, and I'm using pop out, two Hebrew New Testaments that Jesus didn't say, Echiek of himself. Well, I can easily, pop out, okay, two Hebrew New Testaments that Jesus did say Echiek of himself. And then he writes it out, okay, that the 1817 and 1880, that's 80 editions of the Hebrew New Testament does have Jesus using Echiek of himself for himself. No one, I repeat, no one, okay, ude, no one can, Greek word, ude, no one can, okay, nadie in Spanish, okay, nadie como tú, nadie, no one can use that for himself if he is not God. He does it twice, okay? In the emphatic in the 1880 edition, and he says Echiek, and that suffice in the 1817 edition of the Hebrew New Testament, okay? That's just the deal. All right, that's just it. All right, now parting is such sweet sorrow. Now we're going through the whole entire text. Now the next thing we're going to look at is the Greek word ein, okay, which is spelled out eta and nu, and then we'll check out the rest of the construction. But NRK, we found out that the Greek word ein is a preposition that probably was an adverb. Prepositions were probably adverbs. Okay, I hate to say in the beginning, no, just no pun intended. You know what I'm saying. And the preposition in is one of two prepositions here. The Hebrew is be. Did I say the Hebrew text? Yeah, I did. I think I did say bereshit. That means in beginning. Haya means was. One of the meanings of in Hebrew, and one of the meanings of the Hebrew word haya. And then ha means the, and then dabar means what, and then Elohim, what that means, and then wa or va, that means and then you have im, that means with, one of the meanings of im anyway, and then you have what else, and I think it's just repeated, hadabar, haya, ha, like that. So that's basically really the Hebrew words that are found and recorded in the Hebrew New Testament of John 1:1. Bereshit haya hadabar, vahadabar haya im, ha-Elohim, wa-Elohim, or va-Elohim haya hadabar. Okay? So that's just it in a nutshell. And if the witnesses say, well, there's no other verse like John 1:1, did they ever read John 1:2? Where it says here, okay, I'm trying to put it into memory. Okay, it says over here, Hutas ein enarche prostantheon. Okay, that is telling you that not only was Logos in the beginning, but now it's telling you that Theos was in the beginning. That's why this is not just a mere repetition. Okay, this is telling you, proving to you that theos was okay. That the same was in the beginning with God. Well, it didn't say that in in so many words. Okay, in in the previous text. Now it's telling you that not only they were they were with each other, but they were in the beginning with each other. Okay, it says in the beginning was the Word. Okay, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yeah, but it's just stressing out more in verse 2 that theos was in the beginning also. That's what I get out of the sort of repetition of verse 2. Well, and it's showing you the relationship between Logos and Arche, that he was in the beginning. We saw that. We saw that Arche, getting back to that though, sorry guys. Okay, getting back to Arche, that's in the dative, which has to do with interest. It's a case, one of 5 cases now taught in Greek, 4 or 5 cases taught now in Greek. I mean, they hate to say the vocative is a case, but they have no choice. And then in the old days, in Manti's time, I mean, even before, they were, some people were speaking about 7 or 8 cases. Yeah, the instrumental case, the locative case, and a blot case. Okay, which is my favorite, because that's telling me in certain instances that my sins were separated from me. Okay, you know what I'm saying? The ablative case, the case of separation, the instrumental case, the case of means, and so I mean the arche is in the dative case, and the paradigm probably go. I never saw the paradigm arche, but it probably goes something like this: arche. Arches with a sigma, arche with an iota subscript, and we have it right here, and archein. That's probably the construction for the paradigm, Incidentally, the Logos paradigm I did see, and it goes something like this, okay? Lagos, lagu, lago, lagan, lagoi, lagon, lagois, lagus. Okay, that's the paradigm for, and paradigm means model or example, of this word. In its different inflectional forms. Okay. The case ending, getting back to arche, and I'm summing up everything, but I'm really putting some new things in there. The case ending. How do you know this is in the dative case? Well, the little tiny I written underneath the 4th letter in arche, which is eta. It looks like an M, but it's not an N. Is an E class, like in the word they, in biblical Greek. Okay. This N-looking letter, which is not an N, in modern Greek is an I. They love the E a lot, okay, in modern Greek. Okay, so the little tiny I is pointing out the dative case. It's the case ending. Okay, it's the case ending there. The case morphine, if you will. You know what I'm saying? We got into the construction of the end, so let's just do that for arche, which is found 55 times in the Greek New Testament, like I said before. This prepositional phrase is found and recorded around 3 or 4 times in the Greek New Testament, including Philippians chapter 4, verse 15, for the beginning of the gospel. Even though in the English you don't say in the beginning, but you see that in the Greek. Okay, you see anarche in the Greek text there. Now, so let's check out the spelling for arche, which I actually asked that of a so-called Jehovah's Witness. Okay, they're not really witnessing for him at all, and lying and witching and squealing. But I asked, how do you spell arche? If you really know your Greek, how do you spell arche? Which is a very simple thing. Just look at the text and just spell it out. It's the same thing that was done to Charles Taze Russell, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. These geeks. They have, they think they know Greek by just carrying a lexicon on their phone, or a lexicon, Vines. I don't care what it is. These are good to have. I had them when I was in New York. But just because you have a lexicon doesn't mean you know how Greek works. Okay. But you got these lexicon buddies, Tony from Florida, Mark from Missouri, and Alexander Cruz, the Swami from Brooklyn. I mean, who was a thug, actually, in the Trinitarian debate and campaign between me and him, which is on YouTube, by the way. It's called the Great Trinity Debate. and it has about 200 views. You know. Um, I asked him, how do you spell it? He didn't know. And then it's just like Mark from Missouri when he goes to the Greek negative and he sees, okay, I think it's like in transliterated OUCH. He says he says ooch, like coochie coochie coo, you know? You know what I'm saying? It's ooch. It's actually ooch. It's not ooch like coochie coochie coo. You know what I mean? It's like I'm playing with my baby, for God's sakes, Mark from Missouri. You know? Goodness gracious. Well, he couldn't give me the letters in English or in Greek. Okay, Alexander Cruz, you know, and that was during the arcade debate. Well, I was just to contradicted myself. It's actually hey, I cheated, but anyway, arcade debate. Okay. All right, let's get into these letters and then we'll close shop. Okay. Well, alpha is the first letter in arcade, right? Arcade. Sorry about that, guys. And then you have a ro, which it looks like a P, but it's not a P, it's an R in Greek. Okay, so if you're looking at something that looks like a P, it's not a P, it's a ro, it's an R. You know what I'm saying? Like in the word risa, which actually means root. And I don't know if I mentioned that for the two natures of Christ. Revelation chapter 22, verse 16. I am the risa, the root and the offspring, genas, of David, of David. See, nature one, root, risa. Nature two, genas, offspring. You see that? Nature one and nature two? Not to mention Romans chapter 1, verses 3 and 4, but the natures are reversed, okay? You have nature 1 or nature A in verse 3, and nature, nature, I should say nature 2 or nature B in verse 3, and nature 1 or nature A in verse 4 is in reverse order, he's, took hold of the seed of David according to the flesh, and was to, verse 3 and in verse 4, declared to be the Son of God with power. That's nature A or nature 1 in verse 4. So this is the reverse order, but, Paul can do what he wants, so, I guess he speaks by permission and not by commandment, right? They're reversing the order, That's okay. It's just like the Apostle John has it differently than the other Gospels. What am I talking about? Well, the other Gospels has in their last chapter, okay, the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they have the resurrection. Jesus is risen. In Matthew chapter 28, verse 6, Mark chapter 16, verse 6, and Luke chapter 24, verse 6. And John is the only one that breaks up the set. He has it in verse 9 of chapter 20. It's not even the last chapter, okay? But he's the apostle, he's the beloved, so he can do what he wants. If I desire that I return, that he be alive until I return, what is that to you? Follow me, so Jesus said, okay. What about that one, That was funny, though. What is that to you? Said Jesus. And then it's like something else he said that it was funny. Man, who am I to fix this mess between you guys? He was just, people were disputing about things and stuff like that. Man, they didn't come for that. That was Jesus, though. Man, take that 2x4 out of your eye, and then you'll see clearly to take out the toothpick in your brother's eye. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, Jesus says some funny things. It does say that God laughs, though. Just read that in Psalm 2. The Lord shall laugh at them. So He does laugh. The stupidness of man, the stupidness of the stupidity, I should say, of the towers. I forget my English here in the Philippines. That these puny men, with the dirty skirts for the girls and the dirty underwears for the men walking around in their hot pants, okay, like Rutherford was saying that Jesus is a creature. You puny worms are saying that. You know what I'm saying? Some of these girls at the tower don't even know how to wash their panties, though. And the guys don't even know how to wash their drawers. Some of them know, but I'm just saying. And they're talking about God. All right. All right, because I say that because, girls is younger, my stepdaughter's like, 15, and then there's girls here like 11 and 10. They know how to wash their drawers. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you that. Know how to cook, know how to wash, know how to clean. And then they wash plates with no running water outside sometimes in the heat, with buckets and stuff like that. And then some girls in the United States are witching, whining, and complaining about, oh, I have to do the laundry, and then they have washing machines bigger than their fat. All right, so let's get back to the text, okay, guys. So the next letter, well, we have the A. That's easy to detect in our G. Is the second word after the one, and then you have the Ro, which is a P-looking letter in Greek. When it's capitalized, it looks like this, like in the word Rome. Incidentally, Romans chapter 1 verse 7 has en Romi. Well, I mean, there's no article there. As a matter of fact, it will be the same article that will be here. Te. It's not there in Rome, and that was the Rome of Rome's, and there is no article there. As a matter of fact, there's no article in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. It doesn't say en te arche pues and hate as tanuran an kaite gain. Doesn't have no article there, and that was a specific point of time of creation, and yet there's no article. You see, so this is, you don't need articles to make things definite. Just like Mark from Missouri told me, the meaning of the accusative case is that something has an article. The meaning of the nominative case is that something doesn't have an article. I mean, come on, man, that's idiocy. I'm not calling him an idiot. You can't do that. I'm saying it's just madness. He doesn't even know what the meaning of the accusative case is and the meaning of the nominative case. The meaning of the nominative case is that of designation. The meaning of the accusative case is limitation as to extent. See that in Acts chapter 22, Praxis Apostolon, Acts chapter 22, verse 9. The extent of the hearing. They didn't understand the voice. That's the difference between the NIV and NASB from the King James, which is a lovely Bible, but it's much more pure, I should say, in the translation in the NIV and NASB. As my daughter laughs. See also that Jesus is found and recorded many more times in the NIV than in the King James, by a whopping count of 1,000, I should say, rather, 1,241 times to 971 times. That's a difference of 270 times that Jesus is found more in the NIV than in the King James, guys. It's not even close. Okay, so this idea that the NIV deleted Jesus and it has the name more by a count of 270 times is just stupidity. There's another cult, the King James only cult, but they're so happy that they have Lucifer in their text. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they love him a lot. They just wanted him everywhere. I'm just saying. Easter in verse 4, chapter 12 of Praxis Apostolon, the Acts of the Apostles. Goliath having a target in his rear end, you know what I'm saying? 1 Samuel chapter 17, and then, turtles talking. It's actually turtle doves, but the King James has turtles, verse 12, chapter 2 of the Song of Solomon. Shall I go on? Holy Spirit being missing in chapter 4, verse 25 of Praxis Apostolon, the Acts of the Apostles. Jesus dying before he went to the cross in verse 30 of chapter 5 of Praxis Apostolon, the Acts of the Apostles. Should I keep on going? Jesus being the beginning in Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. I mean, it's just for starter, guys, okay? Well, anyway. But let's go on with the spelling. So you have the alpha, rho, P-looking letter, but it's not a P, it's an R in Greek. And then you have an X-looking letter, which is not an X, is a CH, the chi. And then you have an eta, which is not an N. I hope I say not an X-looking letter, because it is, though. Then you have an N-looking letter that is not an N, is an E, like in the word they. And then you have a little tiny I underneath the eta, okay, which is now called eta. So our che is kind of hard to read when you're a beginner in Greek, but then you just understand that there are some letters that looks like our English letters in Greek that doesn't correspond at all. All right, so anyway, partying such sweet Charles. This is Angelo Quinones giving the glory to the God of Israel. God is not the God of the necron of the dead, but of the living. And that means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were very much alive at that time, but it also means biblically that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are alive right now. waiting for the resurrection of their bodies. And that's just it. And no, they're not coming back again. Like the tower said, guys. Millions now living or never dying are almost all dead. And if they're not, they're hanging by a thread. You know what I'm saying? And Tony from Florida, the JW, said if that prophecy is wrong, he's going to become an atheist. See no foundation, having your house built upon the sand. And so when the false teachings like winds and rain blow against your house, you better be ready. Millions now living will never die. They're all dead. Even if you were a baby in 1914, you're 107 years old right now. So good luck for that with that prophecy. And the governing body, they knew this, or somebody told the governing body this in 1957, and they said, well, we better change the date because, people are dropping off like flies. Did he want to do it? He want to do it. Millions now living will never die. That Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were going to return in Besserine, a mansion in California. Why not return in Israel? Why does Abraham and Isaac and Jacob have to return to California? Why not New York, for peace sake? Why California? Goodness gracious. What, because Obed Vargas is there? Is that the thing? But he wasn't born at the time. But I'm just saying. Why did they have to return to California? And why were there 2 Cadillacs there? Why not 3? What, Abraham couldn't drive? No. Rutherford wanted that mansion for himself, and he wanted to make an excuse to make a mansion for himself, and he just lied to his own people, saying that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were going to return. They didn't return. See, that's the thing. And he died of cancer in that mansion, by the way, in 1941. And they sold the mansion quietly, the witnesses did, after his death. This is Angelo Quinones. Take care, guys. Bye-bye now. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also give a thumbs up. It does help the channel. It does help the video to be watched and circulated. And also, please, more importantly than anything, leave your comment on the screen. Okay? Thank you, guys. Bye-bye now.